The system isn't broken, it's rigged, and the people who rigged it aren't going to fix it. So we're building something new, a civic infrastructure owned by citizens where better choices are finally possible. This is the Think Tank.
Hello, welcome to the FiNC Tank. I'm Travis Misurell, founder of FiNC, the Future is Now Coalition. We're building a civic infrastructure to matchmake citizens with candidates who actually want to represent them. Today, I'm joined with Jerome of the Radical Independent. We're going to dig into why the system is rigged, who benefits from keeping it that way, and what it actually looks like to build something new. Thanks for being here, Jerome.
Well, thanks for having me. So, we talked a little bit earlier about some things, and I think we cover a lot of the same themes, right? About how the system's kind of broken, and we kind of got into our origin stories. And mine's super lame, right? I was just kind of bored one summer and kind of got it going or whatever. But yours is a little more interesting. What kind of led you to start The Future Is Now?
Yeah, so it's just, throughout all my life, I always just kind of saw the world differently. I related to being neurodiverse, and I didn't even know the label of autism until like about 3-4 years ago. But I don't know. I'm always my mind's all about patterns, seeing common denominators of things, and how just kind of seeing how the world just doesn't work the way that most people would want it to work, and that it actually work like most people would actually be happy if the system worked in the way that most people would want it to work. Most people can be happy at the same time, essentially. So that's always been my background, but more like on just a general sociological perspective. And then it was really, then 2016 is really when I started getting more political, when I saw like Trump versus Bernie. And just more that's when it really took the pivot into politics. And then I really saw how broken the system was, outright rigged the system is. And just that, only a few things would really need to be changed for most people to be happy. And there's like a lot of issues where most people actually are on the same side. And so I just saw the big common denominators for what the problems are and what kind of solutions could help bring people more together. And I've always been an infrastructure person. My background's in operations, and I did it for like small companies creating their structures. And so I always saw like government as like the operations for society. And so I realized that that really we're missing some key infrastructure that's not run by those already in power. That if we could build infrastructure, digital infrastructure that puts the citizens in charge, that could almost flip the entire system upside down, like with not as much effort as people might think it would.
Right, and it's cool that you mentioned 2016, because coincidentally, that was kind of a turning point for me as well. I remember Gary Johnson was running, and he kind of caught my eye, and I think that's the best a third party has done. I think he was running for Libertarians presidential election, and I think that's the best a third party's done in, I don't know, a very long time, maybe since Ross Perot, I don't know. But watching how the system sort of treated him and all the other things, I mean, I was already kind of on that path, but 2016 was really sort of a pivotal moment. I was like, wow, things are really kind of, broken. And so the infrastructure aspect is an interesting piece. That's not something I personally kind of get into a lot with the Radical Independent, but I try to support all the different groups out there, trying to make change, trying to improve the system, trying to break down I call it the corrupt rig duopoly. That's kind of my tagline. And so anything like that where we're getting new voices, new ways of doing things is awesome. But the name's interesting. The Future Is Now Coalition. How did that name even come around?
Yeah, it is one of the few things that kind of just popped in pretty quickly. Like sometimes we have to name certain things and we spend like days or weeks with my whole team figuring it out. But that one just came to me right from the beginning, and it's pretty much just we're not waiting for permission or legislation. Like, the future is now. Like, let's stop waiting for change to happen. Everyone's hoping there'll be this like grand presidential candidate that's just going to save us, and like it just doesn't work that way. And even if
Right.
even if the president did want to fix it, there's still just one person. There's only a limitation on what they can do. So that's pretty much about like the urgency and collective action of like we need to do something now.
Absolutely. I feel the same way. People have this waiting, a lot of people have this sort of waiting for Superman type of mentality where someone's going to show up and save the day and everything's going to be better. And, you know, rarely, that's rarely the case, right? It's going to take systems and structures and systemic tweaks and all that sort of thing. So on the radical independent, I talk about big changes that we need to do. And I kind of divide it into systemic and kind of social cultural changes. The systemic side is kind of you know, the election reform and stuff like that. But then you also sort of have the hearts and minds, social cultural, how we think about politics, how we do politics, trying to get out of the toxic dysfunction, the intense partisanship, all that stuff. So on the systemic side, like how is the system failing us according to you?
Yeah, and I think we're pretty aligned on this one. But so number one is the money. That money decides who you see on the ballot. And then even once people are elected, people think it's all left versus right partisanship, and like yeah, obviously there's some layer of that, but it's behind the scenes it's like all about the money and who funded their campaigns. Once they're elected, they have to there's a bill return. Somebody gave you tens of thousands of dollars, like they want something in return once you're elected. So that's number one. And then it's really we usually boil it down to three things: money, then party gatekeepers, that it's both the Democrat and Republican parties. The leaders at the top decide who gets any attention in the primary, and then they put their thumb on the pulse on the scale of like pushing towards the candidates that they approve of. If they don't like a candidate, then that candidate's not electable, just because they don't like them, not because they don't poll well.
Right.
And then the third one is the media, that the mainstream media is part of that kind of establishment gatekeeping, where if the party leaders decide that somebody is not electable, then the media is also not going to give them attention, and ultimately you don't really get a voice. So it's yeah, so we boil it down to like those three. What about you? How do you see it?
Well, pretty similar. And, just being independent minded, the radical independent, all that. The whole gatekeeping aspect is just frustrating and infuriating because I'm sort of a bottom up approach. The idea that we're going to have elites or the masters controlling the flow of information and who's selected for this and that, and we get the crumbs type of mentality. I can't stand that. And I feel like that's kind of how the political system operates now today. It's not we the people. It's very party-based, top-down sort of structure. So I'm totally in line with that. Yeah. So what about the social cultural side of things?
Yeah, so the hardest thing there is just that the ultra partisanship, that's really, I can't imagine it was like completely purposefully brought to that, to like left versus right. I think they it just the way America's democracy is structured, it kind of just forces us to do like the winner takes all kind of thing. But that's really the biggest problem here, is like since I started this movement, like everyone, like the detractors that I've spoken to, their big thing is just like, if I say one bad thing about one party, they assume I'm complimenting the other party, and it's like,
Right.
no, I'm poking holes in both sides. I even feel, I forget who said it. Somebody was saying that if anything, you should be more critical about your own party and not pretend they're perfect. No thing is perfect. And so that's really the biggest problem, is like people, and then especially with like people so fearful of Trump right now, they feel like you can't say anything bad about the Democrats, even if it's true. Like, oh, don't shake the boat, we need to beat Trump, we gotta slow him down. And it's like, you gotta look at the system, and whether if you don't like Trump, well, he's a symptom of a bigger problem, and both parties cause that problem. Trust in government all-time low, trust in media is all-time low, Congress, the
Right.
approval ratings are low. So like,
Yeah. All the
both.
surveys are, the arrows pointed down. People are frustrated. Trust is dropping across the board. The intense partisanship that this simplistic binary sort of system sort of creates, it feeds on, it promotes, because that's kind of one way to maintain power and control, right? Is just sort of being trapped in this lesser evil thing. And people now attach so much of their identity to politics, to that any sort of comment or criticism, no matter how it's said, is an intense assault on their very being. It's a tough situation when things have gotten this toxic and dysfunctional, and I do think the duopoly promotes it, because like I said, it kind of traps people into that lesser evil mindset. So those remain our only choices, really. I promote critical independent thinking, civil discourse, all these other things to try to combat that in terms of the social cultural component, because I think you can have all the election reforms in the world, but unless we're kind of changing our attitudes a little bit and kind of being better about a lot of things, controlling our biases, being able to recognize bias, being able to think critically and independently, stuff like that. I don't know. Election reforms are going to take us so far, but I feel like we got to have both. But it sounds like you're saying that there's good candidates out there, but people just can't. We just can't see them in the type of system that we have.
Yeah, so like we both talk about the money and the gatekeepers thing, but that is what prevents these candidates from winning. And it's such a shame, because people don't even know they run. I hear it all the time, like, oh, only corrupt people want to run, only you have to be power hungry and this and that. It's like, no, there's millions of people every election that are good people, like teachers, veterans, small business owners. Plenty of people want to run and try to run, and you just don't ever hear their name because of the gatekeeping. And they have to raise so much money, like an average senator and house member has to raise money in the millions now per election. And like and they get cut out of debates, they're not allowed in debates, they're not mentioned in the media, and like, so that's why they can't win right now. And people actually would prefer these people, it's just the system doesn't want them to win, and therefore you pretty much don't hear their name. So
Right.
that's a big part of what we're trying to change here.
Yeah. And the money you can't be
Yeah.
is, I mean, that's just a huge factor. So, the radical independence basically, I'm like a media news page, right? I put out information, I post articles, editorials, memes, and stuff like that. I'm a mouthpiece. I'm just trying to get the word out, trying to spread the message about election reform, and just changing, and trying to inform people and educate people, and trying to get that, grow the movement, right? So uh how do you what do you do specifically that, like, I don't know, how can people use your site? I mean, what are you guys building? Because I'm just my job's easy. I spread the word. You guys are one of the groups that's actually like boots on the ground, creating things, structures, and systems that people can actually use to you know to to improve things. So uh how are you guys planning on fixing this?
Yeah, so like we talk about, is we're building civic infrastructure. What we're trying to do is unique in the sense that like we call ourselves politically agnostic, not only like neutral between left versus right, but like we support any type of changes, whatever America wants. We want to just build infrastructure that could make it potentially possible. So that's anything from just getting better Democrats and better Republicans, to having independents become more viable, third parties to become more viable. And so my ultimate vision is digital democracy, where you have all candidates have an equal level playing field. also movements, and even independent media like yourself, having a system where you at least have a chance to have a voice with the citizens, that you exist, and then allow the citizens to rise up those that gain the most popularity and support, rather than only the ones approved by the establishment coming to rise.
So it sounds like people can kind of bypass the mainstream official narratives and actually go to a place and see, oh, this is who's running, this is what they are, these are all the different people. You're getting a more a bigger picture and a more detailed picture, and more options, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I like that you use bypass. That's one of the phrases we use. It's to bypass the establishment, bypass the noise, the manipulation. So the grander vision, phase 2, is digital democracy. But right now, we already launched our digital politics hub and our candidate discovery system. So the first stages of the candidate side of it has already just launched last month, actually. Mostly focusing in Nevada, but we're getting different candidates to set up a profile, differentiate themselves. It supports both third party, independent, but then even within the two parties, we're working like with this tagging system to differentiate themselves. Like you could say, I file as a Democrat, file as a Republican, but then you could choose your tags of what you identify as your political lens. So you could be, I might be filed as Republican, but my lens is libertarian, or I filed as Democrat, but I'm a progressive or a populist, and there could be like these different keywords that they can identify as. So just a more fluid way to differentiate themselves, show who they are, but then also we want to build a system where if you're a candidate and you're funneling people into this system to see your profile, then they're also going to see other grassroots candidates. And the more people realize that this benefits everyone, it benefits you for people to come to your profile, but then it benefits everyone else to come here as well. And then so it starts having a networking effect where a candidate wants other candidates to come on because they're going to funnel people in as well. And then it branches out to like movements and media, and pretty much everyone in the system that's not part of the status quo can benefit from this system, and everyone that's helping everyone get on here benefits everyone. So it just yeah.
You use the word tags, and that's interesting. And I'm not an expert on this, and I'm just going to throw this out there. But is this sort of a user-informed system that almost like Amazon or even Netflix or something, where basically it's just a kind of a system of tags, which kind of get pumped through formulas and kind of, I guess, connect people with things that they want or their preferences? Is it operate like that at all, or am I just misinterpreting that completely?
Yeah, that's a part of it. Like the core of it's kind of like hashtags. So people can like a certain hashtag on social media and then search for different conversations with that hashtag. But it also works the way you're saying as well. So the idea would be like every policy stance can have a tag, like clean energy, immigration. On different outcomes of different policies can have a keyword. And as this gets popularized, the idea is that citizens can search by a certain tag. And so there's there's 3 different categories, like the lens tag, political lens. Like you might just say, I like libertarians as an ideology, so I want to search every candidate that identifies as libertarian, whether they're in the Republican Party, third party, independent. I don't care what party they're technically in. I want a libertarian. So it could be like that. It could be around advocacy, around certain issues. So the idea is just a simpler, more modern way for citizens to search for candidates that based on certain tags that they like. They could eventually, we're building a feature where you can like certain tags, and then it helps with the matchmaking algorithms.
Right. And it's an interesting niche because you're not really competing with reform groups or anything like that, but basically you're building a foundation that they could all kind of plug into, right, to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean that is the key here, is like we don't compete with anyone. Like we always call ourselves, we're like the referee. We just want to like build a level playing field and ensure everyone's playing by the rules. No one's trying to cheat or like buy influence. But we want to just plug in everyone across the aisle, any political beliefs, movements, parties, like independent coalitions, like candidate coalitions. Yeah, we just want everyone to be in one system, because at the end of the day, we have to make it as easy for a common voter as possible. And right now,
Okay.
there's too many
So
choices. They're all over the place, and that's one of the key issues we're trying to address.
so we want to make it easy. So someone goes to the hub right now. I mean, what do they do? Where do they start? Like, how are they going to sort of engage in this right off the bat?
Yeah, so you start at hub.futureis.org, gets you on the hub, and then right at the top, there's the candidate discovery that we just created. And so right away they could search by there's a couple criteria. You could search candidates in your state, you could search by a specific tag, you could search by party if you specifically want to. And then
So
yeah.
do you input your own thoughts? Do you like I don't know, take surveys or anything where you're basically saying this is what I think is important, and that's going to kind of match you, or at least sort of reference candidates in some way, or does it work like that?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways to do it. So the discovery side of it is where you could just search by certain criteria. If you like a certain tag, or you just want to see everyone in the state, you could search that way.
Sure.
What we want most citizens to do is when you first come in, to add your name onto the system. And we ask 3 open-ended questions of like, what do you care about in your community? And if you could change one thing, if your candidate can change one thing, what would it be? And it's open-ended. That's another thing that makes us unique compared, like the kind of data we want to put together is open-ended. So like even whether it's local, state, or federal issues, citizens can type in sentences of what they care about, and we want to start building data that we could show, like, in this district, this is what most people care about in that district, and so on, and help both kind of build a polling system of like what people care about when they're not guided into a certain place, as well as provide. There's a lot of candidates that really want to know what their constituents want. They actually want to represent their constituents, and so they want to know where they stand. And like, on a local level, there could be an issue that's only one certain area. So yeah, people could add their name and ask just three open-ended questions, and then your zip code, just so we could track what district the person's in. So that's the citizen side, to start learning what the citizens want. And then pretty soon the tagging system is gonna have liking and disliking for citizens. So like the more tags you like, then it'll start learning the tags that you like, and then it'll show you the candidates that have the same tags that you like specifically. So that's where the matchmaking really starts taking shape.
It sounds complicated, just me thinking on like behind the scenes, like you obviously have a lot of smart people helping you out with that, because it seems like it's easy for me to go on and just talk about things, but to actually get something like this going, you got to have a crew, you got to have a bunch of people working there and doing a lot. So it's pretty amazing, kind of what you're putting together. So I don't know. Have there been any? What are the challenges? I've faced a lot of challenges. I've been around about 4.5 years. It's been kind of slow going, and I'm thinking we probably have some similarities there with kind of some obstacles we had to overcome. But what were some of the challenges in building this?
Well, the biggest thing, like, I mean, I could get, like, people get really excited about this mission. So I have a great team. We have about little under 20 volunteers right now. We're all volunteering our time part-time right now. But the so I have a really great team right now. But the hardest is like it's this kind of like chicken or the egg thing. So right now, for profiles to really mean something, we need more and more candidates on our system to create their profile. It takes less than 20 minutes, but candidates they're super busy. Their campaigns can do it as well. But like it's kind of this chicken or the egg, where like the more citizens that are on there, the more it'll attract candidates, and the more candidates on there are going to attract citizens. Because this is where like there's been like over 15 tech companies that have built something like not as in-depth and unique as what we're doing, but like they've done some kind of political social network before, and then just none of them have succeeded. They all like phased out, or just no one knows about them for the most part.
What's the main reason for that?
Well, because like they think that you could just build a technology and then people just flock in automatically. And so what we really at the forefront, what makes us unique is that the technology is to support what we're doing. It's not the lead. Our lead is the people. It's this reframing of politics, this new hope of changing the democracy at a fundamental level, systemically. So like, for example, the majority of our team is doing social media outreach and other kind of engagement. We're building partnerships with the reform organizations, talking to third parties, talking to candidates. All those other companies, they're just a tech company. All they're focusing on is the product itself. But to us,
So you're kind of trying to build the movement along with the technology.
Yeah, and the movement really comes first. I mean, I started this about 3 years ago, and we only launched technology this year because we really want to get the language right. How do we talk about things where it doesn't feel partisan? It doesn't feel like we're pushing people in a certain direction. And then also,
going back to the whole obstacle thing, that's got to be huge, right? Because you're at a disadvantage, like me, basically, because you're basically nonpartisan, like me. You're kind of I'm an independent, right? And so that automatically puts you at a disadvantage in our civic landscape where everything's liberal, conservative, or left, right, or people can't, it doesn't compute for a lot of people that there's suspicions, everything's very outrage based and clickbait based. And so when you're trying to do something really sort of rational and reasonable and middle of the road and nonpartisan, it's hard to get the traction, isn't it? It's tough.
Yeah, I definitely have seen that. It was so funny because one of the people on our team was experimenting. They were using what we're doing, but in a partisan example. Obviously everyone inside of our system can be partisan if they need to be. That's the infrastructure allows it. We have to be neutral, but they don't. But so somebody was actually being partisan, and they actually sprung up on social media. They were getting more attention than we were in our main thing, because she was able to be partisan about it. And she was like talking very progressive left. And so she had hate comments and positive comments and stuff, but like that pulled her higher up, where like what we do does not cause drama, and because it doesn't cause drama, it takes longer to grow.
We have to fight against the algorithms. That's tough, man. What else? What other challenges? I mean, kind of part of that is you get accused of being a closet whatever, Democrat, Republican, this, that. I've been called communist, fascist. I mean, it's funny that it's such a centristic type of middle of the road kind of, I know my name's the Radical Independent, but it's almost an ironic thing because it's a radical move to remain centered and reasonable in today's crazy, civic environment. But I preach reasonableness and critical independent thinking and moderation, and I try to get away from the partisanship and the emotional tribalism and the toxic dysfunction. And I'm attacked and for that. And I'm like, you can't win, man. It's like you got to throw in with either side, or people aren't gonna, understand who you are.
Totally can relate to that. I mean, a lot of it's why we have like all this new way of talking about different about issues, and like we try not to even touch current events too much. Like if we're going to touch a current event, it has to be at the very high scale of like what's the system doing that's causing this kind of a problem. But yeah, so we get some of that, and then just people. Like, I mean, originally, before we did the tech side of it, it was hard to explain. Like, it's almost like a new philosophy that we're doing of like, like this isn't politics, it's civics. It's actually like how we decide the candidates. It's about the process of choosing the candidates, not about the policies themselves. Like we want to, upgrade how we choose our leaders, and not necessarily fight over the policies. Because like right now, like, people, there's a million places to fight over policies. It's not getting anyone anywhere. You could, you could spend hours and hours every day like fighting for your side. And I mean, they even do studies where it shows when two people debate an issue like that, they actually come out believing their own side even stronger when they pull out of that.
It's a dead end road. A lot of us have kind of stepped back, and we see that we're on this dead end road to nowhere, that there's no future here, that we got to change how we do things.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is the whole algorithm, all that stuff that you got to kind of overcome. But a lot of it's just apathy, right? A lot of it is just people feel like we're just trapped. We're, that the system's unmovable, and there's not much we can do. We can't change things. And that's a huge obstacle that I've come across. And so I try to, that's one of my things I do on my page. These are the problems, sure, but there are solutions. There is a way forward. There are things that we can do. It ain't going to be easy. It's not going to be overnight, but we can definitely get this thing going. But the apathy aspect, right? I'm sure you've come across that.
Yeah. I frame it more like defeatism of like, it's not that people, I mean, there are plenty of people that don't care, but it's a lot of it's just they're checked out. They desensitize themselves because it's so painful and scary and all that. But yeah, that's what I always talk about that too. Like the two biggest battles is the ultra partisanship, and the defeatism is the hardest thing for this movement. And like and it is a shame, because like if you look at the statistics, like so many, like most people want change, most people don't feel represented, most people want money out of politics. Like, so like all the reforms that we talk about is stuff that like over 70% of Americans want this to happen. So to me, that's the hope, is like most people want the same thing. We're getting stuck in fighting in the weeds. I mean, even you look at like the progressive movement, even them, they're always splintered. They could agree 90% of the time, and then they'll find one issue that they don't agree, and then they're like mortal enemies. And like, and it kind of happens in all the wings, I guess. But
yeah, there's a definite amount of certainty and rigidity, and yeah, I mean, not much room for nuance a lot of times with the ultra partisans and whatnot. But so I mean, obviously we're doing what we're doing. We're gonna try to overcome these. What keeps you going when it feels like this is an uphill battle?
Yeah, like I mean, like part of my neurodiversity, I see. I do a lot with pattern recognition, and like I see there's so many people that want to change things, and like the ingredient that's missing is that we need to find a common denominator to work together. Like we're like even like like ranked choice voting people are fighting the proportional voting people and the star voting people. It's like you guys basically want almost the same thing. Like to some degree, you guys should work together. Like, yes, when push comes to shove, you're going to debate over which one's the better option. But like right now, none of you have a chance to succeed. So let's try to in some way work together to move the needle in the right direction. And that's really what FiNC focuses on, is like there's these common, like, if we all share the same infrastructure, because that's the biggest thing that like that's why like parties can't get on ballots. That's infrastructure. Not being seen is infrastructure. Everything about visibility, that's infrastructure. And so if we could just start agreeing on one system of like how, like what to use as tools, then we can sort out like, all right, this many people want this, other people want this. And like basically like one of the later stages when we're getting to phase 2 with digital democracy is a consensus technology of like letting people kind of decide, like see what gets the best traction, the most support, and then that kind of makes the final decision. But I ultimately, it's just like I see that like like most people want change. You know, you have the ultra partisan people, but they're actually just a fraction of the population. It's just they're the
Yeah.
loudest of the
Oh,
population. You
have a
know.
very outsized voice in our the way things are now. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's funny, you bring up the movements and how there's like differences, and sometimes just talking about the radical independent, man, I throw it all out there. I'm like, I'm good with anything. The more the merrier.
yeah.
Some people are very focused on their particular reform, and that's great. Have your thing. But as far as my page, I'm like, let's get it all out there. I think the more the better. We can have a broad coalition, and don't let the enemy be don't be the perfect, be the enemy of the good, basically, right? Yeah, okay, fine, maybe this one's a little bit better, but at the end of the day, we got to go that direction, right? It doesn't really matter. I'm not going to nitpick stuff like that. I mean, you end up arguing over how many angels can dance on a tip of a pin or something. It's just, let's get going, let's get moving. And so my attitude is, I'm pretty non-judgmental on those sorts of things. I'm like, let's just get them all. Let's push as much as we can, and that's probably how we're going to get the most bang for the buck. So I don't know. Looking forward, what do you guys like? What does success mean to you here in the next year or so?
Yeah, so right now the ultimate goal is like we're building more traction right now with Nevada and their primary, getting more and more candidates involved and organizations in there. Kind of using it almost like a prototype, a test case of like getting people engaging through our system through Nevada. And then hopefully best case scenario is that by the November election, really starting to get more national attention. And we're not limited to Nevada. We have a couple candidates here and there all across the country. So we want to gain more national attention by the November election. Like I doubt we'd be an influence necessarily in that election, but at least people start hearing about this, hearing what we have in planned out. And then kind of build our name for ourselves, and then really ultimately by the next presidential major election in 2 years, we want to have a bigger presence by that point. And so like we just the tech we're doing is actually is actually easy. The way we did it is actually low to no code, that allows it to be pliable and moldable. Like, I mean, there's going to be certain things that I want to do later that ultimately we have to shift into something more complex. But all the stuff with the tagging system and all that is actually relatively easy to build. And so we're going to keep evolving that over the next couple months and keep supporting as many candidates as we can. Kind of like your method, all we want is people that are grassroots or not doing the big money, and they could stand wherever they want on policies. That's up to them. We just want to give every choice, every candidate a chance to be on the menu for citizens. So getting it bigger and bigger, start getting closer to a national presence by the end of this year, and then once we have a certain level of citizen support, that's when the full vision of digital democracy takes root. And we already have a lot of different connections with civic tech organizations, different reforms, and so it's just still that chicken or the egg. Once we get a little bit more momentum, all the dominoes are lined up right now, and it's a matter of just getting the right momentum that hits that first domino down.
Right.
And then all these different connections plug in at the same time, and then we build all this traction to really build a nationwide digital infrastructure that reforms and candidates and parties and everyone can share the same system. So I'm a bit of an optimist in what we're doing, but I'm hoping that it does happen, because I mean we're at the digital age now, and people are in pain. People are desperately want to change the system. So as soon as we show that no matter what direction you want to go, this could be the infrastructure that helps you get there, then we can start really multiplying the growth potential in what we're doing.
Right. And I'm not trying to be negative or anything here, but just informing people, educating people, getting the word out. I mean, I'd say it's just such a huge challenge without a war chest. You know what I mean? It's like you said, you got to get more people involved, more candidates involved, and it feeds on itself, and it can grow exponentially from there. But how do you get to that inflection point? You know, it's like it's kind of a tough situation. So I wish you the best of luck in that area. I promote you on the page. I mentioned the Futures Now Coalition, along with other groups and stuff like that. But I do think we will reach an inflection point where the movement, which is growing, suddenly we reach a point where suddenly it becomes the thing, and it starts growing exponentially. But it almost sounds like you guys have to have kind of your own little mini inflection point with what you do with that digital politics infrastructure and stuff like that. It's
yeah, I mean, like, so like right now, for the first time in modern history, more people are registering as independent rather than the two parties. So like that's happening. So like, people are fed up. It is an unprecedented time of people are just so fed up with both parties. And yeah, I mean, like, there's that inflection, because the problem is, like, you're saying it as a movement, but like right now people identify it as like there's like hundreds of movements going on. They have to realize that they are basically one movement. Like we call it a meta movement, that we want to build a movement of movements, that no matter which direction you want, the common denominator is overcoming a concentration of power, overcoming the status quo, overcoming the way those that are already in power are controlling the power. And that's really what needs to happen. But
it's really creating a sort of citizen first political system, the way it should be, the way it was, I think, intended to be, right?
Yes. Yeah. And so like we're doing that on the digital level, trying to build a citizen owned system. I mean, digital democracy literally will be citizen owned, where every American can get like one share of ownership in the technology. So that once we get to that phase 2, that's what we intend. But yeah, so like, I mean, to answer about like the war chest, because that is, that's always the grassroots problem, is the funding thing. Like we're trying to take advantage of the digital age, that like, if you get one influencer on your side, that could be like 5 million people, and you get a candidate, a big time candidate, that's a couple million people. And so that's why we're focusing more on our outreach, is that like, certain connections. I mean, we are, one of our biggest allies is Vote Nevada, and they plugged us into all these different candidates, and there's potential reporters. Once we have a couple more wins, then the reporters are coming in, and then reporters, are magnify the voice. So it's really about like connecting to people of that want some kind of change. And then, we're not divisive, because we're not standing on specific policy stances. So, you want open primaries, you could plug in, this will help you. You're a third party, that plug in, this will help you. No matter which direction you want to go, plug in, this will help you.
You got to have that. You got to have some super strong networking, and don't neglect the Substack podcast realm, because those are some pretty I don't know, high value people in those circles who have some influence, have their own podcasts and whatnot. So I really like what you guys are doing, because when you look at, I mean, I don't know, just in general, when you look at history, we do the same things we've always done, right? We eat, we sleep, we move around, we communicate, we work, we play. But how we do that has changed dramatically, right? We basically do the same things we always have, but how we do it has changed. How we do politics in this country has not, right? It's like not much. And it's time to update things. It's time to rethink how we do these things. Do the same basic thing, but do it better. Like, why are we doing it in a way that is basically been corrupted, right? I mean, it's basically we've dumped the rails, and so let's time to correct or autocorrect, or let's fix it basically.
Yeah, no, I like, we talk, our phrase is we want to upgrade democracy, because you're absolutely right. Like
Nice.
we say it, that like, you could if you're hungry, you can rate your hamburger before you order it. Then you even have a delivery driver send it to you. You can rate your delivery driver. And like, so there's all these digital systems for like everything else in this world, but politics, you can't rate your candidate, and there's no like digital infrastructure to do like the most important thing of your civic duty. So yeah, that's where it all boils down to is modernizing and upgrading how we select our leaders and how we do politics as a whole.
Yeah, agreed. Well, I wish you guys all the luck in the world. And I know you guys are going to grow and do great things. And glad we could have the talk.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it was great having you here. So yeah, I guess where can people find you if they want to see
Well,
what
I'm
you're
just
working
on Facebook right now, Radical Independent Facebook, right? I'm kind of looking at branching into some other areas right now. Um, what can people do right now in terms of the Futures Now Coalition? What, like, oh, this sounds great. What can I do?
Yeah, number one is go to hub.futureis.org, add your name, take the survey. It's 3 open-ended questions. And then if you want to take it a step further, there you can browse candidates and see what's in there. It's still on the earlier stages of how many profiles are there and what's available. But then and then there's like a micro action section where you can like basically call on your own candidates to create a profile, because that's part of it too. We want to start building public pressure to basically demand your candidates come create a profile so that they have more transparency and visibility.
And you would think third parties and independents would be jumping all over that too, hopefully, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
they know they're at a media disadvantage in the first place. So, I mean, I would think that would be something that they would want to do. But
Yeah. I mean that's part of where we're getting the most luck right now. The harder part's gonna have like the more the closer into like how the more they succeed at the way the system is today, the less likely they're to join us right now. But like third parties and independents are a bit easier. And I mean, there's an advantage for them to take of like, people are fed up, so now is their time to start shining, and this could be the way that they get their visibility. But yeah, cool. Yeah,
cool.
so ultimately we're just like, we're trying to create a system that we're not asking for permission. We're actually building something, and the more of us that show up, the faster this can become a reality in America. We want digital democracy to be the future home for America's politics, and it really would benefit everyone, or at least everyone except for the status quo 1%. But so I think we're doing great things. You're doing great things. What you're doing is still super important as well. Just spreading the word. It does count over social media is like the new media, and a lot of people use that. So yeah. So I'm glad we're both kind of fighting the good fight together.
we are.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So thanks for being on the show, and yeah, we'll do this again sometime.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Take care.
The system isn't broken, it's rigged, and the people who rigged it aren't going to fix it. So we're building something new, a civic infrastructure owned by citizens where better choices are finally possible. This is the Think Tank.